Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I'm Nicole. I'm a homeschooling mom to a 6, 4, and 1.5-year-old. And today I'm going to tell you guys about our kind of homeschooling journey, just like a little bit, and then kind of get into my advice, I guess, for if you are interested in homeschooling and haven't started and not really sure where to start. Okay, so just like a little snippet of how we got homeschooling. Before I was a mom, I did not have homeschooling on my radar at all. I thought that I was going to send my child to preschool as early as possible so that he could get a head start on his education, and I thought that was the right choice. Luckily, I had a close friend that told me she was going to homeschool, and it really surprised me. Then I started looking into it more and realized that you don't have to like live on a prairie and like, I don't know, you don't have to be like Laura Ingalls. Like, well, that's what I pictured when I thought of homeschooling. And so yeah, anyway, I started looking more into it. My children never went to public school. I kind of doubt they will, but I'm definitely like a never say never. If they ever asked me to go to public school, I suppose I would let them try it out. But whenever we talk about it, they are like, I cannot imagine doing that. But they're 6 and 4, so, and 1.5, but we don't talk to her about it yet. So let's get into my kind of like tips, and what I've done is mostly what I'm going to be telling you. Listening to music out there. Okay, so what I would first start off with, what I would suggest is getting, and so like I said, they haven't ever been to public school. So I do think that some of the things that I'm going to tell you can apply if you are taking your child out of public school, especially if they're young. But my advice isn't really specific to somebody taking their child out of school. It's more kind of geared towards if you are have young children and you're thinking about potentially homeschooling them, like starting in kindergarten. My advice will still kind of work for you, but I start when they're young. So so anyway, step 1 is to read some books about homeschooling. So I'll show you what I have, and I'm going to show you a couple pictures because there's 2 books I can't find. The first of which I know I loaned out my first copy and never got it back, which whatever, she loved it, so she wanted to keep it. And then I bought a second copy and I can't find it. Anyway, Wild and Free. I really loved this book. It spoke to me, I guess. It just is talking about your kids and your family is essentially wanting to be outside, be in nature, and it goes through kind of like short, like condensed versions of different homeschooling styles. So I found that I really like Reggiano. There's not a lot of information on it. If you know of any good books to go along with it, please let me know. Sorry, I'm shivering like always in this room. Oh, I'm in my sunroom like I said before. It's gonna be spring soon, it's gonna get warm. But I have my the doors to it shut, so it gets cold because the wood stove is like right there and it can't come in. Okay, anyway, super interesting, right? So I love the Wild and Free book. I highly recommend it. It just kind of talks about homeschooling as a lifestyle, right? Because that's what it is. The other book that I couldn't find is I think it's called the Read Aloud Family. That's also really good. It just talks about the simplest way essentially to start homeschooling your children, which is reading aloud to them, which goes along, it's based off of this book, the Read Aloud Handbook. So I love this one for not as much as reading it through, but in the back, like half of the book probably, is book recommendations, picture book read alouds, chapter book read alouds for older kids. And by older, I mean not like toddler. My second born has started listening to chapter books like really without pictures when he was 3, and retaining it, having reading comprehension essentially is what it's helping him with. Anyway, so those 2, and then I'll go through the other ones. This one is more like psychological, getting in the child's like brain, whole brain child, and really trying to nurture the whole child, not just a portion of them. This one is also, this one I am reading right now and really loving. I always think that I don't err towards Charlotte Mason, but it's just because I don't love memorization, and that's a really big part of her teaching. But reading this book, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I do that. So I definitely do go along with a lot of Charlotte Mason ideology, but it's not something that I am like attempting to be more like. But I do like this book and what it talks about. Kind of just I like books that kind of enhance the way that I already feel or already do things, if that makes sense. So I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of do that, but that's kind of gonna make me do it better. But I don't know, that's just what I like. Anyway, these are like starter homeschool books. Brave Learner, I've talked about the Brave Writer writing program. So this coincides with that. You don't have to read this to do that program, but kind of gets you in the mindset of teaching your child to write. And this is a classical book. I love this one. I love classical teachings. So these books kind of are a good intro to kind of figure out, how do I want to homeschool? What does homeschooling look like? Which would be the next thing that I would recommend, is to go on YouTube and look up, how do other people homeschool? What's a day in the life look like? What materials are they using? Things like that. And you don't just have to look for your age child. You can look for a little bit older to kind of like plan out, so that you know, if you want to get here, where do you need to start down here to kind of lay the foundation to get up there. So after you've done all this research on homeschooling, and if you decide, yes, this is what I want to do, which is probably what you're going to decide because it's awesome, figure out, this is what a lot of people say, this is kind of common thing to hear, but figure out your why for homeschooling. So your reasoning, one of my big reasonings that I'm comfortable sharing, because some of them I'm not as comfortable sharing, are that I want my family to grow together. I don't want to send my kids away to a stranger every day and be in a room full of, 30 plus kids that are all in similar mindsets, or maybe not like a great influence, because I'm kind of picky with who they're around. And yeah, I want them to grow up around us and our family and be in our home. I didn't have that a lot. I went to school, and then after school I went to daycare, and I was out of the house from like 7 to 5 when I was a little kid, like all day. And I hated it. I wanted to be with my mom. I wanted to be at home, comfortable. I didn't want to be around people. I'm a people person, so I had fun, but I wanted to take a break from it. I just wanted to go home and relax and do some crafts. So anyway, figure out your reasoning for homeschooling so that you can kind of figure out what that looks like. So because that's mine, I'm not interested in sending them to classes that are even geared towards homeschoolers at this stage in my life. That's just not what I want to do. We also don't do like sports and stuff yet. We might do like t-ball this coming up spring, but it's very like casual, because I don't want our life to look heavily scheduled around just other people. We do have a small co-op there's like 4 of us, families that get together. So it's not like they like don't see people. Like, we have a lot of friends that we know, and we are like, and family, and we are around friends and family all the time. Okay. Speaking of scheduling, my next thing would be to, when you are getting started, don't feel like you have to schedule all of these things. Sometimes we can think, oh, we're going to start homeschooling. We need to be doing stuff all the time, because when people go to public school, they're doing stuff all the time, and I need to be busy. My kids need to be busy. We have mostly like free play, free time. So for example, my 6-year-old and 4-year-old, when we do school, which is for us language arts, so reading, writing, grammar, math, science, history, and and art, and I'm sure there's other stuff, because it's homeschool and you're learning all the time, but that is like an hour of our day. And if we have read a lot of books, then we do them other times, but to do both of them, to do all of the subjects, is 1 hour. So you don't have to like be using your whole day to homeschool if you don't want to. So yes, and along with sports and things like that, you can do sports totally if that's like your thing, but I just wouldn't want to do like Monday, Wednesday practice for one child, Tuesday, Thursday practice for another child. One has game Saturday, one has game Sunday. You're kind of just like losing that freedom of homeschooling. Okay, so that is my kind of like before you really start anything, to think about and to research all of those things. Okay, and as far as what I used when I first got started, I guess this is like another book to read, but it's also a curriculum. Homegrown Preschooler. This one is really fun. So I also have their, so this is the book that you read, and it teaches you about like setting up a homeschool space and kind of just like how to homeschool in this casual, relaxed sort of way. And I have the bigger book with the actual activities, so it goes through each month, and there's a theme, and there's a characteristic, and things like that. And then there's a summer one, which I also have as well. And so there's activities, and it's very like child friendly, and you don't have to do them all. I'm often intimidated by the actual curriculum, feeling like I have to do everything in it. So then I don't do a lot of it, but this one, great. It's so helpful in starting out homeschooling. And it has activities in it too to do things with your kids. So I did something that is very like against what most of maybe like Instagram or YouTube or all of the like popular homeschool moms do today. And I start homeschooling very young. My 4-year-old is reading books, and my 6-year-old reads at like a 9-year-old level, because it's fun for us, and they want more, they want to do more. So how I do this is I start with, I make it all fun. They like enjoy it. They love school. So I start when they are, I know, little babies we're teaching. So like the Montessori toddler and Montessori baby, I really liked those books as well. It talks a lot about that. You just have like a learning atmosphere, right? It's just a lifestyle. So of course you start when they're young, because that's what you're always doing. The one thing that I really liked are these, it's from Learning Without Tears. So it's these wooden letters, and they lay them out with or these wooden shapes, and they lay them out to make letters. And you can just start with just introducing the shapes, and they're making these, and you don't even have to talk about that they're making letters. They're just, sorry, my back hurts. They're just becoming more familiar with the letter shapes. And then you go into what letter it is or what sound it makes, and they're doing it as they're creating it, and it's a physical thing. Which is really fun. There's also things like this, wiki alphabet. So same idea, just making letters in a different way. So little fun things like that. Sensory things to start. So you're just doing a little bit, maybe not even every day, okay? You're just doing a little bit of these fun activities, because you're just kind of sitting home with your kids anyway, especially if you just have that first child and you're like, okay, what should we do? You can do letter learning, and you can do things like that. So that's about when they're like 2 to 3 that I'm doing these fun things. And then my firstborn, when he was 3, it was shortly after he turned 3 that I actually did start doing workbooks with him, but we do them very fun. So like we do Singapore Dimensions. We started with pre-K math, and it's a workbook. So what I'm essentially doing is teaching them how to learn, teaching them to love to learn. So they have their workbook, but what I love about Dimensions is that in the teacher's guide, they always have like some sort of activity to go along with it. And so they would have the workbook, which they loved, and then they would have an activity to go along with it. So we would either have like, counters, or I think they're playing with the whistle, or like 10 frames, or or Play-Doh, or sensory bins. There's so many different things that you can do, and I've done like a million sensory bins. That is like my thing. I love it. Painting, I remember we did a lot of painting with math, and yeah, so you're teaching them how to learn. That is like if I can give one piece of advice, like forget all the books, forget everything, teach them to have fun learning in the style that you are going to expect them to learn when they are 5 and 6, and however old they are when you really start like school, like we're learning new concepts. Because I always hear from parents that kids are complaining they don't want to do their workbooks, they hate it, they don't like school, etc. My kids have the worst they have done is the opposite, where they're begging me to do school, and I'm like, I'm tired, or like, we already did school, like we're done for the day. It's like I gotta clean the kitchen, but because I believe I laid that foundation at the beginning of loving school. So that is like the biggest tip. Okay, and I think that is mostly what I would say as far as getting your like mindset around schooling and getting prepared to homeschool. If you're looking for advice on, okay, so we've done all of these activities and now jumping into real curriculum, I have a lot of curriculum videos on my channel, but you want to kind of search for what fits your family, and you should know this after you have already done these activities and these workbooks. I also did the Good and the Beautiful pre-K with them, so that helped with reading. We've stuck with Good and the Beautiful. I feel like it's kind of controversial. I don't know. I feel like people don't really love it, but I've really liked it. I talk about it in one of my other videos too, and I might do a video on why we're probably stopping it, but it works so well in the beginning, and it's so just like easy to implement, and feel like you don't have to stick with a curriculum as well. Just by the way, you can always switch around. Anyway, so those are kind of what I would do as far as getting started with your like little guy, little girl, and then you can start branching into more curriculum, but I would not start with it. The most I would start with is like the homegrown preschooler type of things, where it's like crafts and activities, but they are also learning, and then just add in a little bit of workbook so that they are associating this fun stuff with the workbook, because then it's also fun. And just have fun. It's such a fun experience, and I'm like so grateful. I honestly don't even really see us stopping, but my husband's like, high school, you're gonna homeschool them? I'm like, well, I don't want them to leave when they're in high school. So yes, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. I feel like I was kind of rambly. And yes, this is just, I love all of this stuff. I love homeschool stuff. And I, like I said, hopefully it's helpful. And hopefully I wasn't just throwing out random ideas that are not relative. But please subscribe, and I have more videos coming soon. I try to do 2 videos a week and with a random 3 video week. So thank you guys so much.